Hi, beautiful ones. My intention with the Shamangelic Healing podcast is to be a platform that explores real-life issues and provides you with valuable insights and practical tools to support you on your journey of healing core wounds and reclaiming your power and manifesting a thriving, impactful life that you absolutely love. You see, it's my dream to inspire millions to shine. So if you find these topics valuable, please take a moment and share the podcast and leave us a rave review. This helps the podcast grow and reach the people that would greatly benefit from these insights. Thank you so much for tuning in and investing in your personal development. I'm right here walking this journey with you. So let's dive into this episode. Okay, we are live. Welcome to the Shamangelic Healing podcast. My super fab bro, Aaron Alexander in the house. He's all about alignment. So we're going to talk about the body, the mind, the heart, the soul alignment, and where that gets all disconnected, what that impacts, and when it's aligned, what that amplifies, and how magical that is. Beautiful brother, I miss you. I haven't seen you in a while. Welcome to the Shamangelic Healing podcast.
I so greatly appreciate you making time for this conversation. As you were saying that, I wonder if there's any person that's not striving towards alignment. Is that an abstract idea to any person, or is that pretty much consistent? Like, yeah, of course, you want to be in alignment with all of these threads. That's just normal, right? That's just like, yes, of course.
For the people that are following you and following me, yes, that is normal. That is normal. I think that there's a time when I wasn't interested in alignment or being out of alignment. I blamed other people for my misalignment. There was a time when I was sedating and ignoring that.
Yeah.
So
that's a convenient position to be in the place of, it's also, perpetually handicaps you until you let go of that. But be in the victimized role of continuing to put responsibility into other people's hands for your issues, be it God or your neighbors or your parents or your wife or your husband. If you put anyone there, you put everyone there. The individual that's there now, be it God or whatever, is just the present scapegoat. It has nothing to do with that individual. It's just a place filler. It's all about you.
There's a misalignment right there. There's where energetic vertebrae get out of alignment. It's not taking accountability. Yeah. So your jam, it's been years. We met years ago, actually here in Sedona, at Aubrey's, and a whole crew of the Brotherhood were coming here to get aligned energetically.
It's true. In various ways.
I had the blessing of holding that space for your emotional, energetic alignment, spiritual heart alignment.
Yeah.
And what a gift that is, I think, to hold space for someone's alignment. And what I appreciate about your skill set and your mastery is the physical alignment. You have a book, The Align Method, which is all about that alignment, and also the Align podcast. And I feel like this is a master area for you, and that alignment is a passionate mission for you. But was it always that way?
I mean, so that's what I was kind of starting to get into my own mind. I think every person ultimately does have the internal operating system or hardware to be seeking alignment, and biologically speaking, it would be homeostasis. And so every cell, your neurology, your lymphatic system, like everything is doing its best to find equipoise or balance or centration or integration or alignment or like whatever word. It's all just words. And so I think that we all, underneath all of our stories and all of our stuff, baggage and such, like weight that we may or may not have accrued throughout life, ultimately every person is an alignment seeking organism.
What do you find is the body's way of communicating, hey, owner, I'm not in alignment right now. When the body is seeking homeostasis and it's not feeling that, whether it's from an injury or like overuse, overconsumption, not enough sleep, how do you feel the body communicates its desire to return back to homeostasis? Like, what are the clues?
Literally any sub-tasteful reaction or experience. I think, obesity, acne, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, joint pain, abdominal issues, bloating, like just say a thing. And
Right.
any of those at some point, any pathology of the mind or the body at some point will come back to the point of some kernel of stress. There's some stress there that's happening, and the body's compensating in some way to kind of hold itself together. But any ailment in the body, like in a fully healthy, aligned body, which mine is not. I'm in process. I'll probably be the case for a long time.
I think you're in good company there for sure.
Yeah,
I'm in
anyways,
process. I'm in like
it's all same
realigning
page.
hormones. I'm realigning skeletal system, immune, gut health. I'm realigning that.
So in some ways, I think that people with microphones or megaphones or social media followings or what have you, they can be inflicting a unintentional, almost like a form of violence into people. They're like followers or people that are tuning in or watching, because the person that's projecting out their story or their image or their book or their podcast or their Instagram thing, it's very easy to fall into the trap of wanting to create this perfect static image. And so okay, cool, like this is like all that is the perfection, just anything that's sub awesome, I'm just going to put that away, throw a little filter in there, file, hire a copy editor to get my post, my caption right, bam, I put it out there, and then it sits there and it's like, cool, like that's me. And then other people, they're being exposed to that image of this perfect static state of the individual, and that puts an undue pressure on them to be this perfect static state of an individual. Right. And then we're all in these things where it's like cruising around. We got our ties are on tight and zipped around our neck there, and you get our shirt right, and you're just kind of keeping it together.
Right. This is me. This is my relationship. This is my life. This is my health.
But I want to say some of that. Yeah. In nature, that doesn't happen. Maybe on occasions it might happen in some kind of like, if an animal's trying to do some type of sexual ritual dominance thing or something, they're like, I think they just are perfect, really, because there's not a bunch of the story involved in it. But there's an interesting book that I'm sure you're familiar with, that many people in this conversation are obviously familiar with, is Awakening the Tiger. Peter Levine wrote it. And, he wrote a ton of books. That's like one of his more seminals. And in that, he does a great job with describing the way that animals, if they get, a zebra gets hunted by a lion or something like that, if it makes it away without dying, the zebra, then it'll go and it'll find a shady place and it'll have this tremorous kind of release, which you see regularly working with people. I've seen that quite regularly working with people over the years. I've been around people in those scenarios while we're all together in some breathwork thing, or whatever it may be, psychedelic thing, or just anything. Sexuality opens up different channels with people. It's usually with a woman more, because the men's like the penetrator, typically, depending upon what you're doing. But there's a lot of different channels in life, or mediums in life, to start to tap into those deeper, more like not ancestral, but like the mammalian part of you.
Yeah. When you were talking about that, posting and the posturing of Instagram or social media or perfection, and it feels like there is a space now that is opening up for radical authenticity, of really rewarding, okay, here's me without the filter, or yes, here's Instagram, here's real life. And it feels like there's a backlash happening that is really acknowledging the misalignment, because we're talking about alignment, of that solar plexus about this is my identity, but it's not authentic, or this is my life, but it's not authentic. And that's a misalignment of the solar plexus not being honest, not being authentic, not being real. And then here comes the controller, the insecure, the overcompensator to try to reach an external experience of perfection or validation or acknowledgement outside of self. And that's a misalignment of the ego, or a misalignment of dishonesty. And what do you think the physiological impact of insecurity, or always seeking external validation, or never feeling enough, that vanity obsession, or the comparisonitis, how do you think that translates, or how do you see that translates in physical misalignments?
Well, first, we all have different flavors of all of that.
For sure.
Part of being a human, and so I think that's another thing that in the static IG image, or the perfect. What's my perfect podcast monologue? How do I just really just lay it down? This is straight channeled from Jehovah, out of the mouths of babes. Boom, lay it down. Like I'm dealing with all of that stuff, like we all are. So we're all in this thing together. And so I think starting with the place of, so I'll answer how that shows up in the body, because it does, there are various specific explanations of how that shows up in the body. But the first thing I think that's really interesting is just having compassion for that, because any person that's exhibiting any of those tendencies, they're nothing more than, maybe not necessarily cries for help, because they might not know that they want help or need help, and the help might not be from you, or it might be from something else, but it's some cry for that I'm insecure, I feel alone, I feel abandoned, I have a fear of abandonment, there's some scarcity, there's not enough, so there's like something going on there to be exhibiting any of those tendencies. Because if you really feel fulfilled and whole and aligned, you just want everyone to win, and you start having that compassion for other people. So even people that you find to be like real jerk offs, you still want them to win, because you see like the reason that they're such a jerk is because they still have unresolved crap with their dad that was abusive to them, or they got picked on in school, or they always felt separate, or they go home and fucking cry at night and just like feel so alone. And now they're this 39-year-old asshole, and so you can see him from that static state, just see the 39-year-old asshole, or you can see him as what they are, which is a child. And they're a man, and I think they're all of it, but they're also still, they have that child part with them. And so I think that's just a really healthy, almost like insurance policy. If you want to be completely selfish with all of this, because I know some of this is sounding, like I'm being very, high and spiritual with my description of how that affects the physiology, but you could be complete like narcissist, egomaniac, selfish perspective on this. Like if you just have that lens of compassion for other, it will be better for you.
Yeah,
it's an insurance policy as well, because at some point you may experience any of those things. If you have judgment toward a homeless person, if you have judgment toward anybody, somebody with some kind of disability, somebody like whatever it may be, someone that's fat, there's a statistical chance that any position that any person is experiencing on the planet, there's a chance that you might be in that scenario. So I say like lead with love. And then it's like it opens up some potential tension of fear of being in that position yourself.
It sounds like that is heart alignment, and that misalignment in the heart is judgment or separation, and that's not an aligned heart. And I love how you also just acknowledged that, if someone's being a jerk, is the ability to kind of see a higher perspective, or see from an aligned heart, well, that's their wounded child, they're in pain, they're in fear, hurt people. Usually when people feel out of control, they try to control. And seeing even the most harsh experiences or expressions through the compassionate heart allows the frequency to be more aligned in the space between ourselves and another person.
And that doesn't mean that you need to go give them a hug. It doesn't mean you need to give them money. It doesn't need to be that you need to put them on your podcast and like
Right.
amplify their signal in the world,
Yeah.
or any of that. It just means you don't need to hold on to the weight or the baggage of your own judgment for that person.
Yeah. Well, it also feels like if there's a trigger there, there's probably a misalignment in self around that wound or that addiction or that poverty or that anger, that there's probably, if there's still a trigger alive, there may be a misalignment in the second chakra, and like our inner child, our own woundedness, our own pain that is being triggered by something we're watching and witnessing or experiencing, and then there's a misalignment there. And I've noticed that when there's misalignments that way energetically, then it turns into a physical ailment. If the heart is closed, it's not uncommon to have, high blood pressure issues, or immunity issues. If there's a fear around speaking, or there's a not ability to express, it's not uncommon to have thyroid issues. If there is, sexual trauma, it's not uncommon to have issues in the reproductive organs, whether those are fibroids or infertility, or STDs, or any different kinds of things, that there's often a physical correlation to an emotional or an energetic feeling as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so from a musculoskeletal perspective, like we all get mad the same way. We all get happy the same way, physically speaking. We're reading, there's a fellow from the 60s called Albert Morabian that came up with, he was a psychologist of some sort, and he came up with the what was it, 55-38-7 principle, which essentially is big in like the body language world, but 55% of your communication comes from body language, which also includes like dilation of your pupils. Are you blushing? Like, we're tracking the human animal. We're really watching what's going on with all of the movement related stuff. And then 38 is the tone of your voice, and I would include also probably the pacing of language in there, but tonality of your voice is the next part that we're listening to. And then the words is this last little measly 7%. And where that, if you're having a phone conversation, obviously that would change, but you can hear when someone smiles or when someone is, frowns or mad or whatever on the phone, obviously, but it's just their voice. You're still listening. You can still listen deeper than the words, like much deeper. But as we're talking to each other, like that's the way that we communicate, is with our physical bodies. And when you're in a position of, the frown or the pride and shoulders back and all of that, like each of those positions are structurally engineered. They're like hardwired at this point into your body to represent certain emotions. And the emotions that you will hold on to are the ones that you would brace for. So when you're really happy, when you feel loved, when you feel supported, when you feel safe, when you feel like all of those things that like everyone, hopefully has experienced at least some moment of that, you will open. You don't hang on to stuff. You're not bitter. You're not resentful. Like whatever comes in the system in one end, it kind of rolls back out. And then it might, while you're in that space, I think your body, mind, your whole system, it buys that time, says, ooh, this is like a cleanup time. And I think it's able to clear out some of that old stuff. And when you feel really spacious and safe and comfortable, and you're in a container, and all of those things, it opens up the potential for some of the deeply held bracing of the past that you didn't feel safe enough to release in the moment to start to bubble up to the surface. Yeah. And what that would look like, really simple. If someone is tense around their shoulders, or their traps feel like they're like a bulletproof vest, and their like shoulders have like an affair with their ears, or like drifting up like earrings.
Yeah.
That's directly pulling on your, there's 12 cranial nerves that are responsible for moving your face and listening and seeing and organ function. The vagus nerve is like the really famous one. That's the 10th, but then there's, 11 more that are incredibly valuable. And for the most part, they're all tied up into this like social engagement. As we're communicating each other, we're watching each other's faces. We're conveying a lot of information in that space. When you start to have chronic bracing or tension in any of those muscles that are tied into your whole body, particularly these 12 cranial nerve parts, it's like playing your physiology to put you into that state of mind and that state of being. So if you go to a laugh yoga class, which I've never been to, but I get it. I've been in a room where people start laughing and everybody's laughing and like, well, this is a thing. This is cool. How weird. That it literally makes you happy. You're not laughing at anything. You're just laughing because you're like, what the freak is going on? And so you're attuning to other people in the room, what we're always doing. And all of a sudden you're like taken over. It's like a spirit took you over. Your face starts going to a position. You're like, huh. You do that for a little bit, like and there's various different research showing this of you just putting you might have heard this one, putting a pencil in between your teeth like that. Mm-hmm. It forces you to do a little smile position. You literally start to perceive things as being more funny. Same thing happens if you put a golf tee in your brow and you have to like go into resting bitch face and like hold the golf tee there. You'll start to feel more like a bitch and be like, like everything is annoying to you. And it's because when you're in that position, you're really focused. You don't have time for anybody else. And you're just like, it's like grit your teeth and get it done. All those positions have been anchored to the point of being hardwired into the human mainframe, the human physiology for, I'd say millennia, depending upon your belief system, but for a really long time.
I love that you create this link between the body gripping and you said bracing, where you've been in that, am I going to get hit again? Are they going to break up with me? Are they going to judge me? Am I not going to be safe? And we've all had those experiences of like, and that's that gripping where literally there is it's a natural response to uncertainty, unsafety, and that gripping can stay sometimes if we haven't been like, I'm okay, and just like I'm safe now. It's okay. I'm not 7. I'm not being bullied at school. The breakup is over. The angry dad is gone. And just to reset the physical body, because one of the things I've read about also is that like that certain emotions and certain energetic holdings in the body create, and certain beliefs like laughter versus rage, or like dreaming and passion versus pain and fear, create also a whole different chemical response in the brain that then correlates to the organs and to the nervous system about whether or not I'm safe and I'm free to play. And this is a wonderful time. And like you said, the heart opens and the flower opens, and then pheromones go flying out of the body like, oh, this is creation time. Yep. This is safety time, which is very different than I'm being attacked, and, and laughter yoga and like all is good versus I have to grip for safety. I have to prepare for battle. And the internal thought that I'm not safe, it's going to happen again, I'm out of control, creates a whole different pharmacy of chemicals that can create high blood pressure. It can create bipolar. It can create all kinds of misalignments in the physical body and the immune system that then create a whole slew of other physical conditions that can come from a misalignment in a thought or a trauma that never went back. And then it's just continually repeating that victim or trauma or I'm not safe that is perpetuating chronic disease. Is that aligning or making sense there?
Yeah. I mean, I think any chronic disease is just a holding pattern that at some point, I'm by no means I'm saying this is like an absolute, because I think chronic disease is probably, more complex than I truly understand. But my intuition / I've done like 400-ish episodes with people that are world leading experts of various different conversations and such. And in my own process of writing my own book and reading other people's books, like what I feel is a main root or foundation of chronic disease is some deeply held tension or backup or stagnation. And the reason that we would have tension in the first place is typically coming from some form of bracing or defense.
Yeah.
And so think if you get into maybe you don't get into fights in your life, I'd imagine, like fist fights. But if you were, you entered the octagon, you're like, I'm going to get into this UFC. It's quite popular these days. I think I'm going to be a, UFC fighter. And you get knocked down and you're getting your ass kicked. You are going to naturally, you're going to do that. Perfect.
Brace.
So you have, and where do you brace? You don't brace your back. You don't brace your hamstrings. You cover those 12 cranial nerve things, all this, like, don't hit the face. That's where I make my livings. Don't make not the face. You don't want to hit the face. Right. You don't want to hit, the liver. You don't want to hit like your belly is completely open and exposed.
Yeah.
So you guard the guts, you guard the face, you just scrub up, and you allow your back to take the brunt of the damage. And so where do people manifest issues in their body? They might have referral pain in their back, or like the back of the body in general. But typically most of the issues, at least from a lens of what's compressed, what's tense, what's contracted, those deeply held patterns are in the front of the body. Mm-hmm. If you look around in someone's hip flexors, or you get into their iliopsoas or their pelvic bowl, you kind of start reaching into iliacus and all that stuff, which is like a muscles wrapping the inside of the pelvis there, the ilium. You get up into somebody's, work around the front of their throat. That's like craziness. And, in Western culture, to be working in my throat, that's like a contraindicated location. It's like, that's where the good stuff's at.
Oh, I just all of that, like scalenes around the neck, and I've had so much tightness, Alex, or Aaron, in my jaw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just like, and correlating that to, I can't speak right now.
Mm-hmm.
I have to hold this back, or it isn't safe, or I'm angry or irritated, and that chronic response to it isn't safe to express my voice, and just that correlated to all this scalene tension and TMJ and tightness in the jaw from stuffing the voice.
Yeah.
It's been like a long time, and still unraveling that.
And sometimes you might have the story. I typically, like, you're a much more sensitive person than most, so I would trust your story more than some, but I would still just listen to what your body is saying. So when someone has their story, you have your story. If you have your story and it's right, why aren't you resolved? You have the story. So, you probably don't have the story. You have like your perceived story, and then then there's the body, and the body doesn't know how to lie. So you get into what's happening with the body, and the body's like, oh, okay, like, I think it's this trauma from something or another, and I learned it was unsafe to speak in class or something, and then I had contraction around my pterygoids or some random crazy story, and it's like, maybe that's elaborate and beautiful, and I love that. And maybe it's coming from, a greater sensation of feeling unsupported in yourself. Maybe it's something that's relation to feet. Maybe it's something about your hips or your pelvic floor, having a foundation for your throat to sit on. So sometimes things are more, I think things are almost always different than what we think. Yeah. And also, different than what we think. I was going to say lower than what we think as well, but it starts off with, do I feel safe? Do I have a foundation? Do I have support? And a lot of people in like the the spiritual realm, or like the more like new age realm, or folks in that space where they're more into, they'd rather do ecstatic dance than like go lift weights. I think it's great. I think ecstatic dance is amazing. I also think lifting weights is great too, or lifting people, or however it is that you challenge your body to like grit down, create stability, support, anchor into the earth, and like move, turn all the lights on from a strong, empowered position. It's really important.
Your Instagram is so inspiring that way, Aaron, is that you're constantly showing creative, powerful ways to move the body, strengthen the body, create flexibility and stability from the ground up. And I think you hit something right on there about what the throat sits on top of. Because if there's expression issues, it's highly likely that the heart, the personal power, the inner child, and physical safety and stability is also compromised, because this sits on everything else. Just
everything.
Like the shot. You know what? We'll give people a guided visualization, like a free guided visualization for like chakra alignment for everybody today. So tune in for that. But I really value that understanding of let's build it from the ground up, looking at alignment from the feet, the safety, the stability, the structure, the groundedness, and like, even if it was unstable in a story, in a real story or perceived story, or in the past, and you didn't feel safe or supported by your tribe or by family or your community or whoever, there was some misalignments there or some trauma or like earthquakes in that stability. It's like, okay, well, I'm a grown-up now. Mm-hmm. And what stability now do I need to put in place in my life so that I'm around environments, people, experiences that aren't undermining my physical, emotional, energetic, or spiritual stability?
Yeah. And so you can look at, as I think you already have gathered, I really appreciate looking at things. Any point or idea typically is going to have multiple lenses that are saying the same thing, just using a different language. And I really strongly prefer to have two languages for each thing. So in this case, we're talking about like a voice and expression, all that. And then it's like, oh, foundation, support. So those are still just maybe words that won't really serve anybody other than like, oh yeah, that's interesting. Things are, everything's connected. I get that. But so one could look at it from the lens of a just purely musculoskeletal kind of fascial connection lens. And you get into the work of Tom Myers, who I've had on my podcast a handful of times, wrote the book Anatomy Trains. He was really inspiring for me, probably 10 years ago or so, when I was going to Rolfing school. I was like deep into his stuff at that time, and still value it. But even Anatomy Trains is still it's a didactic model. It's not the truth of what's happening in the body. It's just one model. But within that, you call that the deep front line, is being the tongue and the tissue around the throat, and going down to the heart and pericardium and diaphragm, and all the way down to the front of the spine, and into the psoas, into the pelvic floor, and then adductors, and all the way down to the feet. So you could track a train of connective tissue all the way from the tongue all the way down to the bottom of your feet. So you say, oh, okay, interesting. So it really is like I'm speaking with my feet. It's like, yeah, you're speaking with your feet. And so that's interesting. And then the other kind of, I also like visuals. And so the visual that's come to my mind is, as you're saying that, and I haven't thought about this before, so we'll see if it works out. But if you're in your home, like your home makes you feel a certain way. Hopefully it makes you feel safe, good, open, expressive. And so if you're in a home and, now let's say your home's paid off, you're just like, woo, like last payment on the mortgage.
Exhale. There's like
I've got a little a little godmother cottage, whatever thing in the back. I'm like making a little side Skrilla, each month. I'm like, dude, like this is great. Like this home feels stable. And I've got all the decor set up, and I've got like the candles, and burn a little Palo Santo or whatnot. I've got my favorite artist paintings on the wall. In that space, when you bring a guest over to your home, you will communicate differently
Yeah.
than if you were in a broke down apartment that you couldn't even afford. And you're so stressed about rent, and you're like, wow, this place sucks, I'm ashamed. How does your voice, your intonation, your tonality, the pacing of your language, the clarity of your thought, how does it express in that space where you have all this shame and guilt and not enoughness and instability, and what am I going to do at the end of the month? Oh my God, where's your voice going to be?
It's like the vibrational expression of shame and fear and stress. They say it like emits 8 to 10 feet from the body, whether we're in a contracted space or an expanded space, exactly what you're talking about, like can attract people or repel people.
Yeah.
Just based on, I'm in this contracted, and it will attract like-minded people that are also in that space of, I can't make the rent either, and like screw life, and like that anxiety space that is, and it can repel people that are like, wow, life is good, and that feels good, and it feels expansive, and how that is an attractive energy to be in this place of, oh, I'm safe and supported. And I find that when I'm feeling in that space, there's a lot more creativity, there's a lot more energy, there's a lot more to share and to shine, there's a lot more passion.
Yeah.
And it feels like everything else is sitting on that root, being like, yeah, the nest, I feel good, I feel held, I feel safe, is very different than I'm struggling, I'm in survival mode. And
for some, it depends on
and we
who
attract
you are.
relationships from that, or repel relationships from that place as well.
But then you also, for some people, their home is an idea, and so home might be, wow, I paid off my mortgage, and I've got this big place, and there's lots of windows, and it's about, like, for one person that's like, wow, like, yeah, that's the dream. For another person is like, dude, my dream home is a backpack and the side of a train cruising through Mongolia. I have no interest in your mortgage, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And it's like, cool, great home. So I'm using more the home as like a metaphor. Whatever home is to you. Ultimately, in an ideal, if you were like super spiritual, you'd feel really truly home anywhere, and you're like, earth is your home, and any home you're in, you're like, oh cool, my home is great. How lovely.
Well, and your body is your home, and whether or not you feel safe in your own body, if there has been trauma, what I've noticed in my clients and in my own body at different times, where there has been a disassociation from the body because it wasn't safe to be in the body, that sometimes we don't land all the way back into the body because it doesn't feel safe. And I think the home is also this vessel, this organism, and am I all the way in my body? And that disassociation can create disease in the body because we're not fully present, hearing, listening, and feeling to the body's needs, or the body's clues for what it needs to feel safe, connected, and to heal.
Yeah.
And that has been a journey with helping people safely re-enter their bodies so that they can be like, oh yeah, this is my home. Then they start to become back aware again. Oh, I've been ignoring the signals of my body because I've been numbing or sedating, or having a challenge with food to just numb from the pain rather than heal the pain and then have a healthier orientation to food and physicality. Like that disassociation creates a distance, like to come back into the body, that it's safe to be here.
Yeah, and the body's always, I think, come back to the beginning thing, the body's always seeking balance. It's always seeking homeostasis. Like, it knows how to heal. It's just a matter of providing it, typically just choosing to remove some of the obstacles that were impeding your ability to heal.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think one of the best things somebody can do is just take a trip, go someplace for 2 weeks. Don't go for like 3 days, go for like 10 days, like have time to really reset. You can bring your laptop and work from there, whatever, but like be in another place. And a lot of times things just clear up. the knee pain you had, whatever, the digestion things, the sleep things, you get off the plane to Costa Rica and it's gone.
Yeah.
Like, what? I'm dealing with this for 6 months. I get off the plane and it's just gone. And a lot of like pain is a very it's very challenging to track down exactly what pain is. And this has been one of my biggest questions for people for the last 6 years of doing my podcast, specifically, like reaching out to people. A big part of starting the podcast was to figure out what the heck pain is. And nobody really knows what pain is, because pain can mean so many different things. And so there's tons of research on this of people getting different knee surgeries, specifically meniscotomies, or they're taking out like a piece of the meniscus due to knee impingement pain and such. It was specific. There's one particular that was really famous. It was done in Finland, and they did a bunch of proper knee surgeries with half the group, and then a bunch of like mock. We just kind of tinkered around and put a little like fake scar thing on their knee and told them they got the surgery. And then tracking back with the people for years to come, it's pretty much the same. Some people got better, some people stayed the same, some people got worse. Same. Like, it was like, okay, that's weird. It's the similar thing with back pain. People can be on the edge of like a absolute disc rupture. Like, they're just a cataclysmic, like, dude, I don't know how you are walking right now. And it's like, oh, no pain, feel good. And then someone else can have a picture perfect spine and be in excruciating pain, or fibromyalgia or something of the sort. And so it's like, what pain is exactly is really complex. But I think that a part of what it may be associated to, or almost absolutely is associated to, is the way that you navigate the stress of being a human being. It is a lot of weight to be a human being.
I'm hearing the correlation of thought and perception, because there can be mental inflammation that can correlate to it expressing itself in the body as inflammation somewhere else. Literally having a pain in the neck may also be a brother-in-law that's a pain in the neck, a relationship, a boss that's a pain in the neck. And the other thing, so it can absolutely correlate to inflamed thoughts, or painful thoughts may create pain and inflammation in the body, especially in that case where
it does create. It does.
It's an acidic thought. I'm not enough is going to, or everybody leaves me, or I'm not safe, is an acidic thought, and that creates a different pH balance in the body. I haven't
heard that specific, but I'd buy it. But the depression and inflammation in the brain, and atrophy of neurons in and around the hippocampus and various different parts of the brain that are primary for you to feel like good and with it.
Yeah.
If you look at a depressed brain, that's going to be what you see. When you look at a happy, in quotations, brain, those portions are online. The inflammation is not there, and there's neurogenesis happening. So as opposed to neuronal death, there's neuronal growth happening. And so it's a direct one-to-one relationship with the way that you feel.
Right. And then, but there's also neuroelasticity, that just because you have had a sad experience or a trauma or a loss doesn't mean that the brain can't come back to a happy state.
No.
Right? That it's not scarred for life. It doesn't mean that so many people ask me, like, look, I just want you to do a shamanic removal thing where you just take that thing and remove it. And it's like, well, that's a lobotomy, so that the pain is there to get us to pay attention to something, to heal something, to learn a lesson, to reclaim that part of ourselves, or realize that I do matter. And then that also heard and felt and experienced, another way of explaining pain is that it's a divine communication, whether it's pain in the body or pain in the heart, that it's an indication that something needs attention. It needs a timeout. It needs to be heard. It needs to be healed. So it's asking for some space. It needs more water. It needs more rest. It needs more time. And that the inflammation in the emotional body or the pain, inflammation in the knee is a communication to try to get us to pay attention to it. And I see it also as like a spiritual connection from the divine, that sometimes that's your spirit guide saying, hey, stop holding the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And
sometimes I think you are such an incredible nurturer, and like and being a part of the breath work with you and such, I'm like, oh, like this, you're like a woman. Like you hold down that feminine, nurturing, listening, holding. And then there's the other side. It's like sometimes you need a fucking kick in the ass. And that's like, okay, like dad, mom, dad, you know, good cop, bad cop. Like sometimes you got to get out of your shit of always looking for the next self-help book thing, or going to your next Tony Robbins conference thing, or going to your next like spirit crystal cleansing healing. I'm like, you need
plant medicine serum, like do the work.
Yeah, you need to do some hard shit.
This is what, you know, this is where that like the being the shapeshifter, Aaron, where it's like, yeah, sometimes, as I have held every single one of you guys that night when we did breath work, held each one of you like super tenderly, like Mama Hata, and like 3 minutes later, it's like, you know, just like fierce, angry, like cathartic release, or, you know, knowing when to be the truth teller, like, babe, that's bullshit. Like, what are you doing over there? Cut that fucking shit out. You know, like being the truth teller of saying, get off your ass already. What are you doing? You know this. And I think that there's a medicinal alchemy to knowing whether we're needing to lean into the feminine and nurture and take a time out as far as alignment, because that might be the medicine that we need. Because some of us are just go, go, go and fire all the time and need to just pause and take a Costa Rica 2-week time out of just like any vacation.
You're welcome.
I know, right? And other times it's like, no, stop the pattern. No, like get off your ass, get in the, get off your ass and start lifting things, get off your ass and start moving your body and like take action to bring alignment. And sometimes it's a feminine thing that brings alignment. And sometimes it's more of a healthy masculine thing that brings alignment.
It's just different tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no, you know, in the like feminism or, you know, being like, that's like, I'm feminine, you're feminine, I'm masculine, you're masculine. They're both tools. You're going to obviously have a greater proclivity towards leaning into the feminine qualities. You'll probably be able to like coo a baby and like like spend time and like I don't think you coo a baby, whatever. A baby will coo in your presence or whatever, you know. And I'll probably chop wood more effectively than you. You know, and it's like
I have seen your muscles, Aaron. I think you're right about that.
And it's not
and
like
I've also seen your feminine side. I've seen in you a sweet teddy bear.
Oh yeah,
gentle and loving and adoring. And I love that there is that alchemy in both of us that can weave both of those to find alignment.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the whole thing. You know, it's like both are equally valuable. And when it starts to become a competition or a race, men against women or women against men or whatever, that's when you're like, well, now you're missing it, because now it's like you against yourself, a part of an aspect of you against an aspect of yourself. And then there's a disintegration, and then we all, you know, lose power essentially.
Yeah. And what has been one of those things that has helped you realign physically, emotionally, energetically? What has been, you know, we were talking about tools earlier, and what has been something that has really helped you be more in alignment in all the areas of your life?
Well, I think women. I have a lot of appreciation for women. They're like some of my best teachers, because I care about their opinion. I want them to love me, which might come from some like, you know, emotional unavailability from my mom stuff growing up, but it incites change. Mm-hmm. If I develop a crush on a girl, she influences me, mm-hmm. you know, in a perfectly fine, like it's like every girl that I've developed a crush on, and, you know, we started kind of like spending time together. and they got comfortable enough that they started kind of like poking a little bit. And typically it's a subconscious thing. They're not overtly saying a thing, but you can kind of like, oh, okay, there's something there. I grow. Okay, I'll grow. You know, and so I have an immense amount of gratitude for just the efficiency of the females of my life, their innate ability to teach without teaching.
Can I ask? I want to acknowledge that the ability to see that and allow it and open to it and be vulnerable to it, to make space for it. In your 20s, was that the case, that you could soften?
No.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So what did you have to table or soften or shift to allow the feminine energy to come in and start supporting refinements within you?
I think throughout my 20s, I was too insecure to allow a feminine that I was like, you know, by feminine, I don't mean like sacred, I mean like a girl, to be in my, you know, like more intimate space. Like sex was fine, but like, you know, going beyond that of like, oh, it's like starting to look like a relationship. I didn't feel available to even entertain that because I felt so unfinished with my own process, my own career, my own body, my mind, my like the person that and again, this could all just be a bunch of stories, but the way that I felt was that until I'm at a point where I feel like I could actually show up for the person that I would desire, I don't really want to entertain anything else. And I wasn't, you know, wasn't saying that when I was in my, you know, 20s, but essentially that's what it was. And so I was kind of wondering, I'm like, am I gay? You know, I'm like, no, it's like, okay, I'm not gay. I'm just not really able to have relationships. Not emotionally available. And a big part of that was not feeling, I think, safe. And a part of that, and then it ties back to, you know, a lot of different other things as well. But I think in relation to your particular question, I think it was like working on myself, you know, and you know, it's like, if you're back to the house analogy, if you're building a house and you want to have a party in your house, if it's like under construction, you're probably not going to like invite a bunch of people over. And so I think it's perfectly healthy to do it and life any way you do it. You can have a girlfriend your whole life. That's perfectly healthy. You can be single for 10 years. That's perfectly healthy. But the way that I felt was I felt like I was like building a house, and I felt like until things were balanced in the place, I don't really want to have people over for dinner party.
I want to acknowledge that willingness to sense, because you have said I'm a sensitive being, and I'm acknowledging your sensitivity to be aware of that and make space for it and to honor it, and not allow everybody else is doing it this way, or you know, I'm supposed to be feeling this way at this age, at this time. I'm supposed to have this in my life. It's supposed to look like this. And just,
yeah,
sometimes we're, you know, under construction. And I really appreciate that. And you know, instead of just being in a hollow shell, having shallow relationship after shallow relationship, which is also a form of you know, non-alignment in the second chakra, in this around sexuality, of just really being integrity with being in integrity with our sexual energy and our own sexuality. And that there's so much sexual pressure that it has to look like this at 16. It has to look like this at 21, or you just got to bang a bunch of chicks. And, you know, like, it's like, there's a lot of misaligned pressure that creates a lot of sexual distortion there.
Yeah.
That leaves, you know, debris all over the place, like sexual skunking.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of cleanup, and then guarding when we go to be in a sexual relationship. So I really want to respect that intelligence and maturity to evolve that, Aaron.
Still in process, but I appreciate that. Yeah.
Hello.
And then that ties. I think that's such an interesting subject, because I think it's probably ultimately dysfunctional and sad, but it might be other things as well. That Western culture, in large part, two of the most common, absolute most common should be like the most normal things to talk about, to be with, to understand, to have like an intimate relationship, are death and sex. And it's like the two things like blurred out, you know, there's like a dead body. It's like, no, don't look at the body. It's like, it's a dead body.
We don't talk about
that. We're essentially two dead people having a conversation. Like, we're dead.
Or not having a conversation, two dead people not having a conversation, right?
Well, that's it. Yeah, but like the just by mere fact that we're here talking, we're dead. Like we're literally marching towards death. And so to be like, we don't talk. It's like, what?
Right? Death and sex. Like we came from sex. Like that's where we all kind of came from. It's not like, oh, that's witchcraft, or that's taboo, or that's bad. It's like, that's where we all came from. And I want to recognize that how much of a misalignment that is around expression of, you know, we don't talk. I mean, I literally, my mom, when I was little, I mean, she would use the word down there.
Yeah, right.
She would whisper it, down there, don't touch, down there. I'm like, what do you mean down there? Like my knees? Like they just so much shame and embarrassment around, and this is all a big misalignment, which creates a lot of sexual distortion. So much sexual distortion.
Not just sexual distortion, that the sexual distortion ends up becoming, you know, sublimated up into something else. So now all of a sudden you're big hotshot CEO business guy, or maybe you're Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler had hypospadia, where his urethra pointed down. He may or may not have had one testicle. He was really uncomfortable around sexuality. He had like one girl that he was in love with growing up. He never had the balls to talk to her, which is kind of a pun because he only had one testicle.
There it is.
And so he, you know, he was really a bound up sexual being. And then he becomes the most impactful person in history in a lot of ways. And it's like, wow, like that came from a misaligned relationship to a man's penis.
Right?
Maybe. Like I can't say 100%. But
it has impact.
That has impact. Sex is the most powerful force that humans are messing with.
And if
in a lot of ways, I mean, that's not an absolute, but it's very powerful to say that.
For sure. And if it's misaligned, it can be incredibly destructive and then create a windfall of karmic bloodline karma that gets passed down generation to generation. When there's been a distortion in one person, then it just gets passed on and passed on and passed on, because it's like, oh, that happened to grandfather, then he passed it on, and blah blah blah, and it just and I've watched that when I'm working with people. Unraveling sexual trauma is like, oh, this gets passed on and passed on. If just like, had this been addressed and spoken about,
yeah,
a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 17-year-old, had we given better tools, better wisdom, some resources, some better information besides just pornography or just nothing, don't touch down there, or a lot of wrong information, it would have created a whole different dynamic. And then of course, death as well. As well. We don't talk about it, which is like so oppressive to our energy body. And like, that's going to create all kinds of immune issues if we're depressed and we're not allowing it to flow, and then a depressed state just stays. People will come to me and they say, you know what, I'm grieving the loss of my loved one. And I'm like, okay, how long ago did they pass? Like, it was 6 years ago. I'm like, wow, okay. You know, it wasn't like 6 weeks ago or 6 days ago or 6 months ago. It's like, oh, it was 6 years ago, as if it was never grieved.
Right.
Another misalignment of unhealthy emotions being oppressed.
Yeah.
So what is a tool physically? I want to thank you for sharing that about how the feminine has helped you grow and align and soften and evolve. What has been a physical practice that has helped you keep your internal alignment, physical, emotionally, and energetically, spiritually, mentally?
I mean, it could be anything. So for me, it depends on who I'm with. Social engagement is going to be the thing that pops a person up through from the lens of a thing called polyvagal theory, a guy called Stephen Porges. It's become very popular in the last few years. Wrote the polyvagal. One of his books called The Polyvagal Theory. But there's been lots of books written about it, and there's when someone is in kind of like a frozen, helpless type state, you'd refer to that as being in dorsal tone in the vagus. The way to jump a person up the ladder, the autonomic ladder, into a more integrated balance between sympathetic, parasympathetic, kind of like healthy nervous system state, is through play and social engagement. And it causes the systems to unify in a way that's really hard to do with any physical therapy exercise you're going to do, or any kind of like vagal tone electric stimulus thing or something. Like it will never compare to, a lot of research has been done around dance, so you can kind of like hang your hat on stuff that's been scientifically validated, even though science, doesn't speak for everything, obviously. But dance is one of the fastest ways to jump the body from kind of like a suboptimal state into, cognitive clarity, more of like an uplifted attitude. It really, it gets the body running on all cylinders, because you're integrating your moving parts. They're coming together to come in sync with this other sound. And now not only are you coming in sync with that other sound, but you might have a dance partner.
Yeah.
And now you're getting that social engagement, that connection, and you have a lot of skin in the game, because there's all this like, oh man, what if they judge me? What if I don't dance good enough, or what? So there's like an Annie there. It's not just you're playing some video game by yourself. There's no joy there, because there's nothing to lose. When you're out with other people, you kind of put your chips on the table there, and that's what engages your neurology and your hormones and everything. You're like, whoa, it makes you pay attention. It makes you show up, makes you come online. And so that integration of the parts naturally happens through connecting with sound, connecting with the contact of the ground. As you're moving around, you're starting to pay attention to the shape and the dimension of the room. So now I'm moving backwards and moving sideways. Okay, the mirror's over there, the table's over there, and you're starting to create this internal spatial map of what's going on. You're literally just coming alive. That's all you're doing. You're just like finally being a human. You've been like an automated robot, since kindergarten, not your whole life, but a good chunk of modernity is sit in place, and it used to be books. Now it's just one book called the iPad, or your laptop or your phone or whatever. And that has all of the books ever inside of it. And you just scan that screen, and you just kind of hunch over, and you go into that, all the postural positions that create that sensation of feeling maybe a little bit small, or maybe a little defensive, or maybe a little bit afraid, and then you come out of that position after school, sitting in that desk that never fit you and is literally setting your spine up for an injury at worst, and at least a reduction in your potential to access power. Because in order for your body to be able to access power, your nervous system needs to trust your musculoskeletal system. If your musculoskeletal system is out of alignment, then your nervous system says, we can't trust this body. We'll give him 30% power. You can do 30% power. But if the joint is misaligned, your body will shut you down. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And so it keeps you alive. If you didn't have pain, you'd be dead. There's no way you'd make it to your age now without pain. And so I guess that was a long way of saying, dance and music is really good.
I appreciate that you brought that up, because I think when there is a pain or a trauma or a loss, we tend to do the opposite: shut down, not connect with people, hide, because like back to what we were talking about earlier of like, oh, I show my perfect self, my happy self, but when there's a trauma, when there's a loss, I don't show that. I don't want to show that side. I don't feel safe to do that. I'm too embarrassed, or I just want to bypass it. I want to hide it. And instead of being social and having that connection with people that might provide safe space, support, encouragement, joy, healing, to just be in community, we tend to isolate instead, and then just use a screen to sedate, or use alcohol or smoking or Netflix or food or alcohol just to sedate. And it has the opposite effect of what you're talking about, of actually moving the body and getting into a high frequency state, and just jolt, kind of a jolt. In the shamanic terms, we call that a jolt. It says, when I'm really depressed, that doesn't mean we don't need to rest and retreat a bit when we've had a wound, of course. And also, I appreciate that you're saying, hey, get into those spaces where you can be moving and expressing and shaking it off. Just like we were saying earlier, an animal needs to do that, to like shake off the density and shake off the heaviness and shake off the grief, and like move it through the body where it's been contracted. And somatic dance is so valuable in kind of feeling where the energy is stuck and giving it a space to move. And that's one of the things that's nice about somatic dance or ecstatic dance, where it's different than, hey, this is dance that is mating dance, where there's, posturing. I have to, my feathers all have to look nice. And that's very different than therapeutic dance, when it's like, I have to look good to attract this person dance. This is different than that.
Yeah. And both are great.
Right. And for at different times, like,
yeah. If you looked at like a peacock and you were like, oh, he's peacock, he's like, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
But
It's beautiful.
We don't tend to naturally peacock when we've been wounded. That's not the season for that. A lot of times we bypass, and it's just like, you know what? I'm going to go reach out for sex because I'm not dealing with this wound. That's
right.
a different thing than, I have a wound, let me heal it. And then when I feel good, now my feathers are naturally,
that's true,
and authentic, because this is the time, just like we're not, nature is never in a perpetually birthing state. It's not always attracting pollination. It goes into hibernation at different times. And with our sexuality, it's that same way. There's times when we're more like aligned for the sexual dance. And there's times when we're like, I'm healing something, or I'm birthing something, or I'm restoring something. Just like you said, hey, restoration in progress. I'm not really open for business right now. And so give us one more tip that has been helpful on your journey, something that's been a game changer for you, that's really helped you.
I think something that's been a game changer for me might not be a game changer for other people per se. So a thing that I think is generally supportive, like a mindset, is just looking at your whole day as being filled with opportunities to cultivate your body, cultivate, all of your parts, so your mind, but just stick with the body. So as you're sitting at, like right now during this conversation, the whole entire time I've been going in and out, I'm standing on this little like prickly sleep induction pad thing, and then I have a slant board thing, so I'm like stretching out my legs and opening up dorsiflexion in my ankles. And I've typically, if I do any kind of interview thing, I'll have like a massage ball and I'll be doing stuff. So I'm like, if we were hunting and gathering right now, we would be doing stuff. We'd be chopping things and walking, looking up and looking down and stepping and squatting. So
carrying,
it seems so. Sometimes people, I'll get kind of crap from people on the internet every now and again, saying like, yeah, but dude, I've got a 9-to-5 job and I can't do that. I'm like, if you have a 9-to-5 job where you literally are just not able to do anything but just sit in place and like have your face buried into a screen inside, okay. But that's not the case for that many people. You're able to do some stuff, and hopefully if you're in that position, like ideally maybe try to figure out a way to not be in that position, because you are sacrificing there's a biological sacrifice that's happening there. So hopefully it's worth it. It's up to you to make that choice.
I appreciate, because a lot of people are like behind a desk. And one of the things that I think you have done really well in, some of your podcasts, but also your videos, is to just say, hey, you can stand and have a desk. You don't have to have a sitting desk, because you can bring in one of those things that adapts your desk that just raise your computer up so that you can stand. The other thing that I've done when I'm sitting for long periods of times is those stress balls. And you just bare feet, you just roll them. I'm sitting here in front of the computer. I can be rolling the bottom of my foot on a stress ball that is at least creating circulation and stimulation on the whole reflexology points. I'm getting an internal massage, can still be totally present. It's not like I'm stepping away from an important meeting, doing yoga over here on the ground, but there is a way to stand or sit on a ball or roll one under your feet. And you have a lot of, go get Aaron's book, by the way, and tune into his podcasts. Like watch his Instagram, because I think that you give a lot of wonderful tools for that, or different ways to sit or adjust your desk so that your career is not costing your physical health.
Yeah, it shouldn't. If it is, it's a bunk deal. It's not a good deal.
It's not a good exchange.
If you get to the point, like Alan Watts says, the thing is that most people they're not earning a living, they're earning and earning. So if you're earning and earning, reevaluate. So if you're what you're doing, you're gonna have $500 million in the bank when you're 50, but your body's gonna be a hunk of shit. It's not worth it.
Well, because you don't have 500 million in the butt anymore, because now you've got a surgery, a herniated disc, a blah blah.
Yeah. So that was who was it? It was, I think when oh man, who was it? It was like not Eckhart Tolle, somebody like Eckhart Tolle. And they were asked like what the most interesting thing about humans are. And they said, this is all of this is being paraphrased, but something like we spend our whole lives sacrificing our health for money, and then at some point we spend our whole lives sacrificing our wealth or money to get our health back.
Right? And so I think that you have brought a lot of creative hacks to that.
It's so easy.
You are all about that. You're like, okay, get on a ball, or put your desk on the floor.
So really simple things is, this is the reason that I wrote the book. Buy the book, don't buy the book, whatever. This is why I wrote the book. All of the information you ever possibly need is in the book. If you're actually interested in this conversation, like that, it's all there. And it gets into other stuff as well. But when you're working, you literally, there's endless possibilities, even if in a cubicle office setting. One, if you are able to, getting down into, a squat or being able to sit on the ground is huge. It's one of the healthiest things for the body to do. Sitting is not problematic. There's nothing wrong with sitting. It's the way in which you sit. We are born, bred, hunter gatherer sitters. Like we've been sitting forever. And if you go to other cultures, spend time with Hadza people, or like that, it's been tracked, seeing how much are these hunter gatherer society, they might just be moving. They're just moving. They just never stop walking. It's like, no, they sit all the time.
But on the floor.
But on the ground. And they're doing stuff here, and then they're doing stuff over there, and then they're doing stuff over there, sitting the whole time. If you're living in Africa and it's really hot, you don't want to be just walking all day.
Right.
Like you want to find a shady place, you want to sit on the ground, and you want to do stuff.
Yeah.
You maybe drink some water, maybe you'll go down, grab some water and squat, pick it up. Like if you think that getting down and up off of the ground is inaccessible in your life, then there's still other options, honestly. But I think, again, it comes into like some reevaluation, because at some point you're going to be 70, 60, 80, maybe 90, maybe. And it would be pretty cool for you to have autonomy still. And if you don't start engaging with the mechanics of your form now, you will lose the mechanics.
Right? What you don't use, you lose. And that's like atrophy. And it's like, wow, I used to play basketball, or I used to be able to play soccer, or I used to be able to play tennis. And it's like, but don't take care of the knee agility or the Achilles heel or the shoulder. And it just starts not being able to you don't get to play with your body, in those ways. So go get the book. We'll have it in the show notes. It's called The Align Method. And then go check out Aaron's podcast, which is the Align Podcast, because you are all about alignment. And that's why we had you on today. And then where can people follow you on Instagram?
Align Podcast.
Align Podcast.
It's all on podcast. Yeah. At some point I'll have to change it to the Aaron Alexander or something. Aaron Alexander's taken. I think Aaron Peart Alexander's taken. I was just like, screw it. We'll just stick. I've got another Instagram as well for a product thing, but Align Podcast is one that my personal self is most engaged with.
And you are also just so consistent with putting up amazing videos that actually demonstrate, physical fitness or physical alignment. And, you're an inspiration. Let me just say.
That's very sweet of you to say. I don't always see that myself, so I appreciate when I get reflections.
Well, we all have different skills to bring to the table. I got my magic, you got your magic, and I really because I aspire to be more aligned, more physical, more balanced, more strong in my body, and you give me a role model to do that, and also just awareness of not to cross my legs as much, but to sit more upright and be aware of my posture. And just when I see one of your reels come up or one of your videos comes up, it's like, alignment, or get down on the ground and, just play. And I just appreciate you, brother. I just appreciate the medicine that you're bringing in your own way. And it's authentic and I appreciate that.
It's very mutual. When you're talking about sitting, if a person tries to sit upright, they're probably going to just add tension into the body. So it's setting your environment up to heal you. So a simple principle, again, for people to be able to utilize is just make sure that the height of your hips are up above the height of your knees. So whenever you're sitting down, if you put a golf ball on your femur, on your thigh, it would roll down towards your knees. And if it's in that position, then you're going to be on the front edge of the sit bones or the ischial tuberosities. And then that sets your lumbar spine and your sacrum up to be in an advantageous position to be stable.
Right. These are little things that I think you are just masterful at. Physiological alignments, just the awareness that just tilt your pelvic just a little bit or align your hip just this way. And it makes such a difference. And, when I'm realigning my body and retraining my body, and especially after twins, like the pelvic floor just, and like the lower abdominal muscles just got super stretched.
Sure.
And it's just like, bringing those back, strengthening those back allows my body to just regain its natural posture. If I don't strengthen those back, then I'm always overcompensating in some way, or my body's like pulling because this isn't strong. And so go follow Aaron and listen to his podcast. 400 shows, hun.
I think 365, 370.
Congratulations. That's a lot. I've had 64 or something like that.
Well, it's like congratulating somebody for breathing a lot. I mean, you just keep doing it.
No, I'm not going to buy that, because I'm just not buying that, because it's like congratulate them for writing a book. You wrote a book that takes discipline, that takes persistence. 350 plus shows doesn't just happen. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of energy.
That's true.
So I just want to acknowledge, because it's a service to community. This is a service that I do. It's a service you do. It's not like get compensated here for this, other than it's what feels right to bring valuable information to people that need it. It's a service.
But it's also a service to myself. If it wasn't a service to myself, I wouldn't do it.
For sure.
Like it's not, I'm not doing anything like altruistic, like, oh, it's like if it's, I enjoy having conversations with people that I'm interested in extracting what they have inside of their mind. And I'm like, how do I get that? I want to get that. And then the byproduct is like, oh, I can also, share it. And then, and I can, have, get paid from sponsors and develop like a whole platform around, like, that's great. I by no means am like hiding behind like, oh, like I am like the altruistic, like I do the podcast for me.
Yeah, well, I always learn. I know it's always fun, and I always learn when I'm doing this. So thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it. And for those of you listening, go get that free gift, which is a chakra balancing guided visualization, so that can help like internal awareness to the different chakra energy centers of the body. Go check out the podcast, go check out Aaron, and then go check out the book. So please, if there was something valuable, share this with somebody, subscribe so that you can get the next episode that's coming up, and let us know what was valuable about this conversation. Let us know what aligned for you. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Aaron. I love and appreciate you, and look forward to seeing you here in Sedona again soon.
Thank you.